Well, welcome to the next video where we're going to reassemble the Abu Cardinal 556. This is a much bigger reel than the 554, and it's designed for kind of long casting too, if you look at this bit here. So we're going to reassemble it. Okay, so the first part of the reassembly is the drag mechanism at the back of the reel. You need to start with this cog here, and there's a red friction washer that sits on it, which is made from special material, so you can't just use any red washer, you need to use the friction washer. And then on top of that we have that, okay, and then on top of that, this is designed to stop this O-ring from slipping about. You have that, so make sure it sits inside the little arms. And then you have flush plate, which is shaped also, so you need to keep it in line with the other sides there. And then you have another friction washer. These are quite brittle, so try not to break these and keep them flat, keep them as flat as you can. And then you have a flatted shaft washer, which goes on next. You can use that to push the friction washer down without risk of cracking it. And then you got another friction washer which goes on the other side of the sandwich, and again you got a flush plate, and you can use that to push it down with. And on top you've got a rubber washer. So that's how your drag met actually works together. What you then got to do is insert this into the reel. These little slots here, they've got to fit into the slots that are inside the bottom of there. Now you'll see when it's right, because it'll sit properly. So you can see that. If you look at it downwards, you can see they're all in line there. All of these slots on the other side are sitting in the bottom of there. Right, so this piece here actually screws, it's a right hand thread, so it just screws into the piece like that. That squashes it up. So it's held in place by this, which is like a spring clip, which you can just push in with your fingers. So that's your drag mechanism in place. The next part of the reel reassembly is to just put this little switch back. This is the switch which switches your hand to reverse, either on or off. And you basically just put that little brass clip over it like that, and you can see how it fits there if you need to know. And that allows you to click back and forth. So next we're going to assemble the drum. And this is probably one of the trickiest bits in some respects. So you should have a piece like this, and that goes in that little hole just there, and it just sits, it actually just sits there, and it gets pushed down when the plate goes on. Okay, so it doesn't go over the screw or anything like that. So your plate goes over the top, like so. Now you see around the rim here, around the rim edge there, there's a little divot. So the plate has to fit into the little divot. So once you get it in, you just put the screw down, and that will stop it trying to release again. Now the other side is a little bit more tricky. What we have on top on here is like a hairline spring, and then we have the bail arm trigger, and then we have a shaped washer, and then a cover. So it's a bit more tricky. But it can be done, so don't worry. Here's your shaped spring. Now if you look on the reel, you can actually see the wear mark where the edge of the spring's been. So that piece of the spring there, that's where that goes. And then the other piece of the spring curls around the other side of the bail arm trigger. So the bail arm trigger, this is the bail arm trigger. So you need to get that slot there over the bail arm trigger. And that is pretty tricky, but what you should find is if you put your thumb on it, it should be pretty slack if it's on properly. Right, so there you go, that's on properly. On top of there goes a shaped washer, so make sure when you take it apart that you didn't lose this, because you will struggle to get this reel to work if you lose that. Right, so don't lose that. And then on top of that goes a cover there. And the cover is held in place by a screw which goes through the washer. Right, there you go. So that's the assembly of the drum, without the actual arm, of course. I need access to this nut in the centre here, so I'm not going to put the arm on just yet. Okay, coming back to the real body, we have the bearing, and then we have a washer here which goes right to the end there, and you'll see that sometimes it's actually stuck onto the real body with grease. Just make sure you don't lose that. And there's another washer that goes this stops the bearing being nipped too tight, and it only goes that far. That goes on the other side. So you push that through like so, and the anti-nipper goes onto there like that. Right, now there's one part here. This is the bail trigger, the stump effectively. I have old reels that used to be just cast into the body, but they found after a period of time that, especially with these zinc cast cases, essentially the nub just gets worn and damaged away after a fair amount of use. Because zinc actually isn't very hard, it's quite a soft metal, and it becomes worn very quickly. And you may be able to see that on one of the previous videos that I've done, like such as the Alcox Duco or something like that. So the drum then goes back on. Now if you reassembling this for real, I'm going to use this reel for parts, but if you're going to reassemble this reel, you would oil this. It's a sliding part, so you'd oil it. You only grease the cogs. Right, now on here you got typical jam washer there, which fits onto the flatted shaft, and that helps to stop the brass bearing from moving. And then you got that goes on. Now it's a left-hander, so resist the temptation to rotate it to the right. And if you remember what I've just described to you, you should be able to tighten this up fairly firmly. It doesn't necessarily need, because it won't damage it, because it's been designed in such a way that it can't get damaged. Now that's the reason why this is a parts reel, because the bronze bearing inside there is worn and it's just too loose really. Okay, the next piece that goes back is the main cog. Now this works slightly differently to the 554, which is in the other video. There isn't a forked rider on it made of plastic, but that washer does need to go in there, otherwise the pack won't sit properly, and it won't work properly. So make sure you have got that, otherwise you are stuffed. Rightio. Now that should engage fairly well with the brass cog. Next off, on top of that, you can put the spool pin back in, and that spool pin slots into the drag mechanism at the back, so you just need to rotate it gently to get it to slot in. And this piece here, that little metal piece is loose. It does come out, so be careful you don't lose it. It is there to make the spool go up and down, the cam rider work properly, so you do need it. So as opposed to the 554, on this particular one, the plastic clip just goes downwards, so you just need to push it down like so. That isn't really a cog, that's your anti-reverse ratchet, and this just needs oil on it. And you want fishing reels to run light and fast, so you don't pack grease into them. It's not a steam engine. Just remember that. This actually sits over there. That is a bit mobile. Right, that sits over there, and you can spin that till it fits. So you might be asking, oh, where's the ratchet then? Well, the ratchet is on the back of the side plate. So that's what we're going to do next. So the ratchet goes here. Let me get it in focus. And the ratchet, it's always wise to keep a careful tab on these, because they can go springing all over the place. It sits like so, I believe. And this piece here, this is the bit that connects with the serrations on the main cog. So it goes that way up. The little nub there goes over the divot just here. So just to clarify, you should have it lined up like that. You can just see it there, and then you should see your little spring is clipped under here, and the line bit goes here, and then you put your screw into there. So when the screw's down, it's designed in such a way that it leaves it loose. So there you go, like that. This particular reel has little brass guides in the side plate. If it hasn't got those, you could struggle a bit, so just make sure you have got those. It doesn't have one here, so you're alright with that. Righty ho, sure. This goes down and on. Now then, as with the 554, you can find it's a bit weird putting this on, and if you tighten that down, you either damage the plate or you'll damage the internals. So the way to do it is to twingle that around a bit until it sits. You can see there now it's freely turning and it's sitting down properly, and the side plate holds the mechanism so that it can work. So keep your thumb on it. Okay, so that's the side plate installed. I'm not going to show you tightening down the screws because that's really not very interesting. And I've actually missed a piece off, so I'm going to go back now and show you that. Okay, so the piece that I've missed off is not particularly critical. This is the clicker, or the ticker, whatever you want to call it. And it goes under there like that. And it sits just in that hole, just there like that. Right, now then, there is another piece missing. This, if you remember from the 554 video earlier on where we dismantled it, just here there's a strip of spring steel that goes onto this cog here, and that means that when the fish is pulling you can hear it go tick 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 tick. So that ticker is missing in this reel. In fact, I do have it, but it's snapped in half. And that does happen in older reels. You need a spare part to repair this, but I'm going to sell this reel as parts anyway, so I wouldn't worry too much. You can see the movement in it. Look, that's why it's the parts reel, because the bronze bearings on the casing are worn too much. A problem. So back to the screws again. There you go. Right, so your next thing is going to be the bail arm. There's a pair of screws for the bail arm, and the bail arm itself, just by discussion. If you look carefully at this end, it's crimped, so you can't take that apart. So if that breaks, you need a new one. So you're goosed with that. This piece here, this has got the hardened steel or the tungsten guide on it. The early ones were tungsten. I'm not sure if this one is. And if you undo that screw, that whole thing will come apart, and there'll probably be about 4 parts to get it out. And it means that you can replace this bail arm piece along with that back end bit, and just keep these parts if you need to just buy a simple part for it. If you look closely, you see there's a little dot there, that little hole. That's the side that goes onto here, and that spring end has to go into the hole. If it doesn't go into the hole, it won't work properly. So you've got to take a lot of effort to make sure it is absolutely right in the hole properly. So the 554 that we did is pretty much the same mechanism, it's just smaller. And this one, right, I'm just going to point this out, right, that little notch there has to go into the top half. Alright, so just make sure you make a note of that. So push that home and then put the screw in. Okay, so that's that done. And if we look at the other side of the bail arm, again we've got the divot here, little notch. That has to go in the top half. Okay, and you can see the bail arm sitting already. Okay, so that's your bail arm on, and if you've done it right, it should have a nice wee snap to it like that. And the bail arm just won't work properly unless you've got that. Now you can hear that when I put the ticker back. You can hear that ticking, can't you? Okay, so the spool, just go lightly rotate it till it locks onto the cross piece. That just goes on like that, and then your handle goes in one side like so. In fact, we bought the 554 and the 556 both for £3, so we're looking at £1.50 each really. But it shows you how to reassemble one in a quality way that still works. The anti-reverse does work, as you can see. The thing that doesn't work is the ticker, as I explained earlier on. The drag works too. That you can see how that's pulling. And see if you loosen the drag off, you can see that turns, and as you tighten the drag, it gets harder and harder to turn. So that's working just fine. There is a lot of wear in this reel, so you probably wouldn't want to use it anyway. But yeah, it is still a usable reel. When you put the handle back, the other side of the handle should have a black knurled knob on it, which allows you to loosen the handle off. And that's obviously missing because somebody's taken it for another reel possibly. However, you can go onto eBay and you can buy aftermarket parts from China which would work perfectly well, or you could make one up, I suppose, if you had a welding tool. That's your Abu Cardinal 556 reassembled. Hope you enjoyed the video, folks. Look out for more videos. Thanks very much for watching.